Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MTG Traders. My name is Taryn, and this is Mono Red Burned for Standard. Alright guys, this is the week before Christmas, and I wanted to do kind of a Christmas landy deck that isn't actually tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, or tier anything. It's more just a burn deck that I really love, and I wanted to show it to you guys today on the channel. It's not necessarily going to win you every single match. It's not going to necessarily win you a lot of matches. It has the potential to do that, of course, if we get into some great Christmas land hands, but other than that, it's just a straight up burn deck that can burn our opponent down to the ground. But of course, before I get into it, make sure to like the video if you like the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and make sure to hit the notification button right beside the subscription button to know when we upload a video on the channel and when we go live on the stream right here on YouTube. But of course, let's get right into it. Right here we have 4 Firebrand Archer, a 2-mana 2/1 human archer. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Firebrand Archer deals 1 damage to each opponent. So we have a lot of non-creature spells in the actual deck itself, and Firebrand Archer is going to be dealing 1 point of damage per spell we play onto the battlefield. Keep in mind, if we get another Firebrand Archer on the battlefield, it's going to be stacking, so doing 2 points of damage, 3 points of damage, and so on. So a fantastic way to do some extra points of damage, as well as have also a 2/1 attacker on turn 2 against a slower deck or against a more control-heavy deck where they don't have removal on turn 1. Next up, we have 4 Walking Ballista. This is an XX00 artifact creature construct. Walking Ballista enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. You can pay 4 mana, put a +1/+1 counter on Walking Ballista, or you can remove a +1/+1 counter from Walking Ballista and deal 1 damage to target creature or player. Walking Ballista for us is just a fantastic beater and a fantastic way to get some extra points of damage in the mid to late game, being 2, 4, or maybe even 6 mana if we need to. The other thing about Walking Ballista is that it's the last 4 creatures in the deck. We only have 8 creatures in the main board for game 1, and that's perfectly fine because our game board is like this. We have 4 Shock, which is of course a 1 mana instant, deals 2 damage to target creature or player. Then we have 4 Lightning Strike, which is just a more increased shock, a 2 mana instant, deal 3 damage to target creature or player. And then we have 3 Hungry Flames, which is 3 mana instant. Hungry Flames deals 3 damage to target creature and 2 damage to target player, which is basically a shock and strike in 1. Then we have 1 Inferno Jet, and this is all of the burn we have in the deck here. It's a 6 mana sorcery. Inferno Jet deals 6 damage to target opponent, with cycling of course with 2 mana in case we don't need Inferno Jet's extra pump and empower on the battlefield. So let's walk it back here. We of course have the 4 shock to deal 2 damage to our opponent. Of course, if we have a Firebrand Archer on the battlefield, it does an additional point of damage to our opponent, and of course we can redirect that damage to a target planeswalker as well. Same thing for shock, same thing for Hungry Flames, because Hungry Flames is also a great way to kind of clear the board as well as do extra damage. And of course, Inferno Jet is a great way to either get card draw advantage or close out a match. Next up we have 3 Insult to Injury. This is the way we're going to win the match here. It's 3 mana insult sorcery. Damage can't be prevented, and if a source would deal damage this turn, it deals double that damage instead. So think about something like an Inferno Jet dealing 6 damage. Well, now it does 12 points of damage. Think of Hungry Flames here doing 3 and 2. Now it does 6 and 4. Same thing for Lightning Strike, it does 6, and then same thing for Shock, it does 4. So it's a great way for us to stack damage onto the play here. As Insult goes into the graveyard, we have Injury here for 3 mana sorcery. Aftermath, Injury deals 2 damage to target creature and 2 damage to target player. So basically another Hungry Flames for us, just without that extra point of damage for a creature. A lot of burn decks kind of tell you to play your cards as fast as humanly possible, but this burn deck is really not about that. It's about being as patient as possible. You really want to be holding all of your burn as much as you possibly can, then get out an insult play, and then play your burn and kill them in 1 turn. That's basically how this deck works from the onset. We have cards to help us with that as well. Cards like, of course, Cathartic Reunion. Here's a 2 mana sorcery. As an additional cost of Cathartic Reunion, discard 2 cards, then draw 3 cards. Basically just filtering through your hand if you get into some extra mana if you don't need, or maybe another Cathartic Reunion that you don't need as well. And next up, of course, for some creature removal, we have 2 Harness Lightning, a 2 mana instant. Choose target creature, you get 3 energy, then you can pay any amount of energy. Harness Lightning deals that much damage to that creature. We'll talk about it in a minute, but the sub-theme of this deck is actually with Dynavolt Tower, because we can actually do damage with that as well. So 2 Harness Lightning in here is just kind of representing that, but also representing some supreme creature removal. Next up, we're moving on to artifacts. We have 3 Treasure Map, which is a 2 mana artifact, of course. Pay 1 mana, tap, and scry 1, put a landmark counter on Treasure Map. Then if there are 3 more landmark counters on it it, remove those counters, and transform treasure map. Then create 3 colorless treasure artifact tokens, and of course they tap for any kind of mana we need them to. And of course, treasure map, when it flips, it turns into a land. We can actually use it to pay for colorless, or we can tap it and sack an artifact and draw a card. Again, a fantastic way to get us some card advantage for one, or also some extra mana we need in the mid to late game to close out a match. Next up, to have all these spells cheaper, we have 3 Primal Amulet. This is kind of also another sub-theme for us. A 4 mana artifact, instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 colorless less to cast. Do keep in mind on that first ability here that if we go back to Insult to Injury, this is now 2 mana, and Injury is now 2 mana, so we can play this for 4 mana instead of 6, and that is huge in the same turn. You can actually do Insult and then do 4 damage to target creature and 4 damage to target player, which is crazy powerful for us. It also means that Primal Amulet can get 2 charge counters from the same spell, because whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a charge counter on Primal Amulet. Then if there are 4 or more counters on it, you may remove those counters and transform it. And of course, whenever Primal Amulet transforms, if you want to turn it into a land, you can, and it can actually copy instant and sorcery spells that you cast. So another great way to do some extra damage for our opponent. And of course, the 4th in the deck here is a Dynavolt Tower, a 3 mana artifact. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you get 2 energy. You can pay 5 energy, and Dynavolt Tower deals 3 damage to target creature or player. Again, this is going to be another way we're going to end up with the match win as well. The Harness Lightnings and Aether Hubs in the deck, we'll talk about those in just a minute, are going to be the ways that you get energy on the battlefield, as well as playing our instant and sorcery spells with cheapened costs thanks to our Primal Amulet. It's a bit slower, I know, and it's a bit Christmas landy, but that's what janky decks are all about. But that is all the cards in the main board here. Let's go to lands here. We have 4 Aether Hub, of course. When it enters the battlefield, we get 1 energy. We can add 1 colorless to our mana pool, or we can pay 1 energy and add 1 mana of any color to our mana pool. So great for mana fixing, but also a great way to add some energy to our pool, so we can actually use for Harness Lightning or for a Dynavolt Tower play. Next up, we have 4 Ramp Ruins here, a great way to get some extra utility for our lands. We can tap it to add 1 color to our mana pool, or pay 1 life and add red to our mana pool, or pay 4 mana, tap it, sack a desert, Ramp Ruins deals 2 damage to each opponent. So if there's an insult on the battlefield, it does 4 damage instead. Same thing here, we have Sunscorched Desert, a 4/4 here. When it enters the battlefield, we deal 1 damage to target opponent. It can tap for colorless. And of course, we have 11 Mountain, and that is our full 60. So game 1 game plan is getting out our Firebrand Archer as quickly as possible, getting out a treasure map as quickly as possible, ramping up on scrying, making sure our draws are as efficient as they possibly can be, then getting some treasure tokens thanks to the flipped treasure map, and then playing out an insult, and then playing out a lot of burn in a single turn, burning our opponent down to the ground. But that is game 1 game plan. If we're up against, say, like a Godfather's Gift strategy or a vehicle strategy or something that's a bit faster, what can we do? Let's go to the sideboard here. We have 2 Chandra's Defeat, a 1 mana instant, deals 5 damage to target red creature or red planeswalker. If that permanent is a Chandra planeswalker, you may discard a card if you do draw a card. So this is a fantastic way to get rid of a Chandra Torch of Defiance, or a fantastic way to get rid of a Glorybringer, which is going to be the main headache and the main point of contention against for a Chandra's Defeat. Next up here, we have 2 Magma Spray, a 1 mana instant, deals 2 damage to target creature. If that creature would die this turn, exile it instead. Magma Spray is really here to represent against a Scrap Heap Scrounger strategy, any kind of graveyard interaction strategy where we know that the last point of damage that we can actually do to a creature, like the Scarab Gods say, we can use Magma Spray, kill it, and make sure that it's exiled and not coming back for us. Next up, we have 2 Abrade here. This is going to be for the Godfather's Gift strategy, the artifact heavy strategy, or maybe just a vehicle strategy. A 2 mana instant deals 3 damage to target creature, or you can destroy target artifact. Again, a fantastic way to use against either a creature-based or artifact-based strategy. Next up, we have 3 Sweltering Suns, because we have a lot of token-based strategies right now in the standard meta. We have 3 in the sideboard here. It's a sorcery. It deals 3 damage to each creature and cycling for 3 mana. We're never going to use the cycling. We're going to always want to use Sweltering Suns just outright. Next up, we have 2 Rampaging Frost, because the token strategy is so heavy in the meta right now. Rampaging Frost is going to be coming in as well for that matchup. We have 3 mana here for a Dinosaur with Menace to 3/3. Players can't gain life, and whenever another creature enters the battlefield, Rampaging Frost deals 1 damage to that creature's controller. This is also a fantastic card against a blue-white cycling deck, where they'll be playing out lots of 2/2s, but also they have cards like Renewed Faith that actually, when they cycle it, they do gain 2 life as well, or they can play it outright and gain 6 life. Rampaging Frost prevents the damage gain and also pings it for 1 when they play out a Drake, so that's awesome both ways. And of course, having Menace here is another way to just have, like, you know, some icing on the cake there. Next up, we have 2 Gremlin Infestation. This is against a Godfather's Gift strategy or any kind of slow artifact heavy strategy. This is more of a fun card for me, fun flavor card. It's a 4 mana enchantment aura, enchant artifact. At the beginning of your end step, Gremlin Infestation deals 2 damage to enchanted artifact's controller. When enchanted artifact is put into the graveyard, create a 2/2 red gremlin creature token. So a fantastic way to ping our opponent for 2 if they have an artifact that we don't really like dealing with, but we can handle it as long as it's dealing them 2 points of damage per turn. I think that's fine. And the last two cards in the main board here, or in the sideboard here rather, is Hazreti the Fervent, a 4-mana 5/4 legendary god with indestructible and haste. And of course it can attack or block unless you control one or fewer cards in hand. You can pay 3, discard a card, and it deals 2 damage to each opponent. This is going to be coming in against anything where we're going to be boarding out like Harness Lightnings, any kind of creature removal, or we want to be a little bit faster against an opponent, so we bring out Amulet and we bring in Hazreti instead. But that is the full 75, guys. Let's go to the layout here. On MTG Traders, it's coming to about 66 tickets, which is actually quite good, and in paper it's coming to about 120, 130. I think on my actual overlay here it's coming to about 138. But if you want to remove some cards, make it a little bit more budget for you, you can remove Walking Ballista and Hazreti the Fervent. Those are the big money cards of the deck here. But of course, guys, let me know what you think. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you have any suggestions for it? Would love to hear your suggestions in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it, of course. And the stream is actually already on the channel, so if you want to check that out, we did quite well on stream. I loved it. But as always, guys, I love you, and I'll see you in the next video.